It began during the last days of summer, as the air was thick with the promise of an early autumn. Emily had finally saved enough money to afford her own apartment, a small one-bedroom unit on the outskirts of the city. It wasn't much, but it was hers. The building itself was old but well-maintained, whispering histories of past tenants through its creaky floors and ornate architecture that seemed out of place in the midst of modern high-rises. Emily walked up the narrow staircase to her third-floor apartment, listening to the steady tap of her flats against the wooden steps. She felt a familiar rush of independence each time she twisted the key in the lock and pushed open the door to her new home. But tonight, as she stepped inside, she felt something else entirely. An unfamiliar chill wrapped around her, as if someone had opened a window in the dead of night. She flicked on the lights and walked through her apartment, inspecting it with a mix of anxiety and disbelief. Every room was exactly as she'd left it. The neatly placed cushions on the couch, her favorite mug on the kitchen counter, and the bedroom slightly crowded with unpacked boxes. Emily rubbed her hands along her arms, dismissing the sensation as a figment of overactive nerves. Moving was stressful, and she had experienced a whirlwind of emotions over the last few weeks. The unease didn't fade as the days went by. Emily wasn't sleeping well. She would wake up at odd hours, the silence pressing against her ears. It was an all-consuming quiet that you didn't notice during the day, almost as if the walls absorbed every hint of sound as night fell. Shadowy outlines seemed to shift in her peripheral vision, but when she turned to look, there was nothing there. Her neighbors were friendly but reclusive. An elderly couple lived on the floor below her, often quiet except for the occasional echo of a recorded talk show drifting through their door. Yet it never seemed to reach the third floor. Sometimes she wondered if anyone but her actually lived up there. The hallway always seemed cold and uninviting, its distant light casting an odd glow. One evening, Emily sat on her couch reading with a hot cup of tea nestled in her hand. The rhythmic tick of the clock on the wall was soothing, almost hypnotic. That's when she heard it, a soft brushing sound, like fingers faintly skimming across the door to her apartment. Her heart quickened, her mind leaping to conclusions. She sat frozen for a moment before setting down her tea and moving cautiously toward the door. Peering through the peephole revealed nothing, just the dimly lit hallway stretching out, quiet and deserted. Emily took a deep breath, opening the door slightly, but there wasn't even a whisper of movement outside. She stood there for a moment, hesitant to step further into the darkness that waited without, as if the world outside her door existed in a parallel realm. Ever so slightly, the door chimed as the latch clicked shut. The following night, Emily awoke with a start. Her heart pounding loud in her ears, her bedroom enveloped in pitch-black darkness. She strained to hear anything, but there was nothing but silence. Her phone showed 2:37 a.m. Sitting in the stillness, a suffocating feeling wrapped around her. It was almost palpable. Just before 3 a.m., Emily heard the sound again, that same gentle brushing. It stirred something primal within her, an unsettling acknowledgement of vulnerability. She couldn't bring herself to open the door this time, instead choosing to remain glued to her bed. Her mind wove possibilities out of nothing. Over the next few humdrum days, the feeling of being watched grew more persistent. Emily chastised herself for being paranoid, clinging to routines that kept her tethered to normalcy. Work, gym, grocery shopping, each provided stability, even if only temporarily. Then one Sunday evening, the power went out. Emily was typing away on her laptop when everything shut down, plunging her into complete darkness. It was as though an unseen entity had decided to pull a plug on her security. Shrouded in darkness, she searched for her phone, its small screen coming to life with light. Her fingers wrapped around it with an urgency born of confusion and fear. She dialed the building manager with trembling fingers, listening to the endless ring until a voice crackled through. Flickering flames from scented candles provided scant comfort, their tiny flickers guised as life amidst the shadows. "Power's out," she stammered, trying to mask her anxiety with practicality. The manager sighed on the other end. "We'll check on that first thing in the morning. It's covered the entire block, so your building isn't alone, Emily. Hang tight." Hang tight. The words lingered awkwardly, offering little consolation, leaving behind a sterile void in their wake. Emily settled in, sleep being elusive as the shadows deepened around her. Then came the intonations of whispered words rising with the ticking clock. Not words she could make out, but more like a frenetic discussion held right beneath audible frequencies. There was a rush of movement at her window, an outline invisible during the day but now perceptible against the curtain's sway. Her heart thudded violently as she approached, pulling back the curtains to reveal nothing. She wanted desperately to rationalize away the sense of another's presence, clawing at the edges of her awareness. The morning brought with it an overwhelming sense of relief, as if daylight peeled away the oppressive darkness of the previous night. But Emily's mind couldn't shake loose the events, persistent in their careful yet chaotic dance within her head. She decided to leave an anonymous note at the building manager's mail slot, avoiding further scrutiny as her weakened resolve started to fracture. The unease dissipated somewhat after that night, a brief interlude to her ongoing turmoil. Normality seemed somewhat restored until one Thursday afternoon when Emily returned home to find a small, unmarked envelope slipped under her door. Its weight was feather light, but the sight of it set her on edge. She unfurled it with gentle trepidation, revealing a small Polaroid photograph. It was a picture of her front door, taken presumably just after she'd left that morning. Emily's mind recoiled against this intrusion. Her privacy shattered, a keen edge of fear slicing through her nerve endings. The realization that this wasn't random, that someone was orchestrating her anxiety with precision, threw her thoughts into disarray. Seeking solace, she reached out to an old college friend. They met at a small, intimate coffee shop far from the building, where Emily poured out her fears between hot coffee sips. It felt cathartic to recount everything out loud, her normal composure a distant memory. Her friend, a meticulous thinker, offered to stay over that night, providing company and a fresh perspective, but more importantly, a feeling of safety Emily yearned for. She agreed, and that evening, the atmosphere was lighter somehow, with laughter and shared experiences muting the darker corners of her mind. But as they settled in for the night, lights dimmed, tranquil sleep within reach, Emily found herself alert again a few hours into the night. Her friend, lying on the air mattress nearby, snored softly. It was the brushing noise once more, but distinctly different, almost amplified in the room's stillness. Emily's pulse quickened, senses heightened. Her friend stirred, evidently sensing her unease, but as she turned to speak, a silence enveloped them both. They lay for long moments under the cloak of night, tensely aware of each anxious breath, unable to bring themselves to move again. By dawn, the ordeal, whatever had occurred, had ceased, giving way to an oppressive quietude. Her friend left by midday, both shaken but resolute that this couldn't continue. They advised Emily to find another place to stay temporarily or rarely, suggesting professionals or authorities should inspect her apartment. Emily returned only to pack her essentials. Her thoughts gathered as she stuffed clothing into bags, adrenaline coursing through veins as a constant reminder of her unwelcome visitor. But in that momentary departure, something caught her attention, a faint remnant on the doorknob. A subtle smudge, almost undetectable except to a discerning eye. It was warmed by touch she hadn't authorized, a testament that emphasized Emily wasn't alone. With trembling fingers, she snapped a picture of the eerie finding, a whisper of reality, grounded in everyday familiarity. The photograph became a final testament to the intangible terror lurking in her once sanctuary. And as Emily stood on the threshold of new beginnings, she knew the scourge of uncertainty may never release her, but at least she wouldn't be standing still within its grasp.